Hey, all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today we're going to be talking about descriptions in RPGs, how I do it, how you could do it to improve your game, to level up your artistry skill. So it's really, really simple. What you want to do is visualize in your mind, think about exactly what you're looking at, whether that's your character's appearance, whether you're the GM and that's what the room looks like, whether you're a character and what does your room look like? How would your character decorate his room, or his keep, his stronghold, his mage's tower, whatever it is, or whether it's his finishing move when he's in combat, or just a move in combat. Visualize it in your mind, then break it down, describe it to the other players, and that's all you have to do. A lot of people seem really intimidated when you say you have to describe things. I'm a player who asks for a tremendous amount of feedback. I'll ask other players, what does your character look like? What does his armor look like? What do his boots look like? What does his weapon look like? You know, is it engraved? Is it bronze? Is it steel? Does he have mud on his boots? Has he cleaned his boots recently? Are they old? Are they new? These tell me things about the character. So I'm going to ask those questions, and you need to, be prepared for people to ask you. But also, if you volunteer information, you can, give them an even better view than they think about, than they would think to ask. So, I've done a lot of work which is communication based, especially over the phone, where you can't see someone that you're talking to. You have to describe something. So an exercise that we do, that we've done in many different businesses, different offices I've worked at, is you sit back to back, and one of you will have a picture. You're looking down at a picture. The other has a blank sheet of paper, a pencil, and you describe to them that picture, and they are supposed to draw it. And you want to see how close you can get their drawing to the picture you're looking at. And that's how I approach RPG descriptions. I have the picture in my mind. I want to put it onto your paper, the blank paper inside of your own mind, so that we're on the same page. So I know what you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about. When I describe the battlefield, you know what's going on. It might take a while longer to set that stage, but then you don't need minis. You have this 3D battlefield. Or, if I'm describing a move that I'm doing, whether that's just a simple chop sideways, the vertical chop, whether it's a stab, or whether I've got my sword and I'm half swording, so I've got it and I'm holding the blade up here, and I'm using the sword as a small spear. Whether I come up behind someone and hook it around their head, maybe even it's on the back of their neck, and we're right grappling and we're chest to chest, and I'm trying to cut into the back of his neck with this sword, or maybe I hook his leg as I've got him, and we fall backwards, or fall forward perhaps, whichever you want to do, get a leg sweep. But I want to describe that so that you understand what I'm doing. I'm going to use my body language to try to convey it, but that's not always enough, especially doing really acrobatic moves. If I'm going to run up a wall and backflip and land on my feet behind you, and use that momentum to hook your waist and hit you with the German suplex, then, I need to be able to describe what that looks like. That I lock my arms around your waist from behind, my chest is to your back, and I'm going to lower my hips, so I'm going to squat slightly, so my center of gravity is below yours. Then I'm going to stand up, and as I do so, the exact same time, I'm going to fall backwards, arch my back over, curved, so I land really high on my shoulders, and you land on the top of your head. So you have to be able to describe that. Or when you come in, you enter a room and you have a sigil. Let's say it's Game of Thrones. This is a bad sigil. I hate this T-shirt actually, but even with something like this, what does the font look like? How well does it contrast with the rest of the shirt, perhaps? But or with a sigil, I played a character, and his sigil was just a purple grape cluster on a green field. So that's all I have to describe, and then it gives me that idea of he's wearing a lot of green and purple. So, he'll have emeralds and amethysts for his jewelry. Perhaps adamantine, since adamantine is green in my setting, it's a green metal, so his jewelry might be made out of that with purple amethyst set in it. And just going through, maybe he has green eyes, maybe his, again, using an adamantine in his equipment as well, maybe an adamantine breastplate with the grape cluster made out of amethysts, and each grape is a separate enormous amethyst. That could be really cool to get into that description and talk about how you walk into the room and the light is flashing off of the amethyst, but how adamantine absorbs light. It's a very dark green metal, but it's not very, very shiny. It's more like zinc. So you can go through and describe that, and you know exactly what this guy looks like. Oh, he's got green eyes, and you could, that character had black hair, just straight black hair, and a little mustache, the pencil mustache, a swashbuckler stash. And, a rapier where the hand guard of the rapier was again, a cluster of grapes, or it looked like it was, and with a tiny vine coming up before the blade left that. So it was all worked in to that character's appearance. And, especially with a PC, you should have huge amount of information on his appearance, what all his moves look like when he's doing his fighting style. How is your thrust different from someone else's thrust? How is your horizontal slash, your vertical slash? How do you do it different? Does he have full power into it and he's off balance when he swings, or is it a light little chop and he's always got his balance? Does he go back and forth, or does he have combos where he's back down? What does he do? So picture it in your mind first, and just describe what you see in your mind. That's my advice, no matter what you're doing. And again, for a GM, picture the battlefield, picture the room that they're in, the colors, the shapes, and go from there. If you want to do just blocky shapes, because the guy that owns the house is very blocky. His mind is black and white. It's right angles, straight lines. So you can reflect that in his decorating choices. Versus if it's someone who's kind of, smoky and mysterious, someone who has a silver tongue, might want to trick you. He might have these hanging curtains everywhere, and you're not sure which are doors and which are walls, and just tapestries. He might have rugs that could conceal trapdoors. He could have, all kinds of things. Low lighting, maybe some braziers, which give off smoke. So there's smoke hanging around the ceiling. So you don't know if there's a trapdoor on the ceiling either. And it could be the same room, but just decorated differently. It's a 10 by 10 room, with 2 doors, but it'll be decorated differently depending on who lives there, who made those decisions. And in some places, the decor might be left up to the steward because the knight really doesn't care. And he might own the palace, but he doesn't decorate it. And that reveals something. It reveals a lot about the steward because you get to see his decorating choices. But it also reveals a lot about the knight because you can tell he doesn't care what things look like. So he probably is the kind of guy who's more practical, or he's just disinterested. Maybe he's depressed. He doesn't care about anything. He's nihilistic. So you can read all these layers into everything, and visual cues can be the very first step in that. What do you see? And then move on. What do you hear? Do you hear the braziers crackling? Do you hear silence in the room because it's very Spartan and austere? Does he have a pet bird that's squawking? Is there the pitter-patter of little feet because there are children running around? You know, and smell. What is the wood that he's burning in the brazier? You know, is it wood chips? Is it cherry wood? And you can smell that cherry kind of odor, that fruity odor, or is it like, you know, coal or charcoal? And it's like, it's not really that pleasant. You know, just these little things can make a huge difference in remembering that scene, in remembering the characters who set that up and who are there. And it gives you something to react to. You know, if your character, if you're trying to play him as a square guy, if he comes into the square room, he can nod. Say, oh yes, I approve this. Or if he comes into that pillowy, smoky, satiny kind of almost a tent, you know, the arabesque style, he can be very uncomfortable with all the cushions and the pillows, and he doesn't want any of that. He wants to say he'd rather sit on the floor than on a cushion. You know, so you can react to it. The more that a GM or another player gives you, the more you have to react to. So, you know, my character who had that rapier with the grapes and the grape breastplate, if he met someone who religiously could not drink alcohol, you know, he might see the grapes and he'd realize that this guy's merchant house grows a lot of grapes, and they own all these wine yards. They're vintners, so they make wine. That's where their money comes from. But for you, you can't drink alcohol. You think it's evil. So when you see this guy who's just, you know, covered in grapes, and he's showing off the fact that he's built his money on what to you is a sin, you know, you can get in there and either convert him or just vicious him with some forearms or whatever you want to do. But you have something to react to. You know, the worst thing is if you give someone nothing to react to. It's like, oh, my character enters the room. It's like, okay, well, you know, and I have nothing. I can't do anything with that. He's in the room. I could do, why are you in the room? I could ask that. But if you come in and you say, you know, the man enters the room, he's bare-chested, and he has a white linen kilt and golden jewelry all about him, you know, bracelets and armlets of gold, and this huge gold necklace, and sandals, and he's got a khopesh clipped onto his belt, and his head is shaved, and he has makeup on, and perhaps you know, some tattoos. You know, he's got the eye of Horus perhaps tattooed right on his forehead. Now, oh, I've got all this stuff to react to. He's got gold, he's rich, he's bare-chested. Maybe he's, to me, a barbarian. But he's shaved his head. You know, again, to me, that might mean something. You know, I could say he's a holy man. Only the holy men shave their heads. And, you know, and this khopesh, have my character ever seen a khopesh? Maybe, maybe not. So, and a tattoo, you know, I've got all these things to play around with. And all these little things. If my character is a Celt, and I've got a regular kilt, and, you know, a claymore, a two-handed greatsword style claymore, and maybe I approve of the tattoo. I'm like, oh, tattoos are awesome. I'm covered in tats. I've got Celtic crosses, and you know, I got Stonehenge tattooed around my bicep. So I might be like, oh, he's got tats, he's okay. He's got a kilt. I like this guy, but he's got all this jewelry. I'm kind of suspicious of rich people, because in the Highlands we're very modest and humble. So that's kind of gaudy for me. But his sword is really weird. So there's some things I like, some things I don't like. And you can role play now. We have something to talk about. I can talk to this guy about any of those things or more. And because I've described my character, he can talk about all these things about me. Maybe I have a Celtic cross necklace on, and he doesn't know what that is. You know, what's is that the symbol of Thoth? And I'll be like, no, that's not the symbol of Thoth. That's the symbol of Jesus. And we can get into a debate about if Osiris is in fact Jesus, which he's not. But but it just gives you something to work with. The more as a player you give out, the more the other players can hook onto you, and the more the GM can relax. And the more as a player you give out, the more the GM has to work with. Again, the more he can relax. Of course, a GM should always be giving this stuff out, but you've got so much else on your plate that this skill is, to me, more useful, more important, for the PCs than for the GM. Feed your GM, feed your other players, give them all energy, help them level up their game, and this can make you kind of the center of attention. But asking these questions about the other players can make them the center of attention. If I ask, is your character wearing a dirk? And you can say, why, yes, he is. Of course he's wearing a dirk. And I can say, oh, what kind of dirk? Is it decorated? Is it made of gold? Is it made of pig iron? And I can ask him about this. And maybe I have a reason for asking. Maybe my character is going to, slip that guy's dirk out and kill someone else with it and slip it back before anybody notices. Not in the same scene, but I could pickpocket it and then run off, do something, maybe even just cover it in poison so that you kill yourself when you're eating with your dirk, if that's a custom of your land to eat with your dirk. So there's, more is better. That's what I'm trying to get across. And like I said, the best technique is to imagine yourself there, see it in your head, and then just describe it. Start at the top, work your way down. Start at the bottom, work your way up, whatever you want to do. Just get the picture first and then describe it, and it'll be so much easier for you, for the GM, for the other players. So let me know what you think about that technique, if you've used it, if you are going to use it, or if you have a different technique that you think works better, let me know about it. Because I'll be happy to know about it so I can put that into my arsenal. But until next time, I'm going to sign out. Hope everybody has a good day. Cheers.